Hey everybody, how's it going? Josh here, and today we're going to talk about the potential secret villain of Avengers 4 that is supposedly greater than Thanos. Now, just to kind of do the plot thing now, it is the Soul Stone. That is what I'm going with for this theory, and if you wait until the whole video, it actually gets a lot more interesting. So, in Avengers Infinity War, we know that Thanos was assembling the various Infinity Stones. The reason we were given was because Thanos wanted to eliminate half of all life in the universe, because he thought that was the only way of saving the universe, which obviously doesn't make that much sense when you really think about it and you really get into the math and all that stuff that surrounds that idea. But of course, in the MCU, that was his reasoning, and Thanos seemed pretty convinced that was correct, and that was a higher kind of calling, so to speak, with regards to his reasoning. Thus, it was beyond what a lot of people could comprehend, and he was the only one that had the will to do it. That kind of spiel he gave Doctor Strange and Gamora, all that good stuff. And out of the various stones, we knew a lot about the Mind Stone, we knew a lot about the Space Stone, but the Soul Stone was always a mystery leading up until Infinity War. Actually, Infinity War was the first time we formally got to see the stone. And the Soul Stone, when we finally got to Vormir with the Red Skull as the Stone Keeper, it was said it had a special place amongst the Infinity Stones containing a certain wisdom, so to speak. And that was from the Red Skull, and even Wong from Doctor Strange during the Infinity War Prelude comic said the Soul Stone is the biggest threat of all. But what makes the Soul Stone such a big threat, and why do I think it might be the secret villain of Avengers 4 that is supposedly greater than Thanos? And the reason why I think the Soul Stone makes such a big threat is because likely its abilities over life and death make it obviously a top tier type of threat in anyone's hands. But the fact that the Soul World, and it seems to have a certain sentience to it beyond the other Infinity Stones, beyond even the Mind Stone, I think it gives it not only power over the other stones, but it gives it power over a potential user of the stones. And in the comics, the Soul Stone, obviously being one of the most sentient of the stones, also wanted to be reunited with the other stones. And this was actually played upon in the comics during one incarnation where there was a seventh Infinity Gem called the Ego Gem. And this resulted in when all 7 of the gems were reunited, it became a single being called Nemesis, which in this storyline was used as the origin of the Infinity Stones. Now, since then, the Infinity Gems or Infinity Stones, depending on what you want to call it, it's now 2 different things in the comics, but depending on which one you want to go with, that is no longer the in-canon origin of the Infinity Gems or Infinity Stones, but it's definitely something interesting that kind of made me think more about this, because it's really possible that the Soul Stone and other stones were once part of a greater cosmic entity, or maybe a cosmic entity went into them. And that actually would be really cool, because there may have been, or maybe beforehand, other beings like Thanos searching out for all the stones together. And the fact that Thanos might be used as somewhat of a host body for the will of the Infinity Stones, I think would be an interesting kind of twist in Avengers Endgame, because it would definitely make Thanos more sympathetic and more of, he would still be a threat because it would still be his original plan, but he would just be manipulated in the same way Loki was manipulated by the Mind Stone to enhance his already desires, so to speak. But Thanos would simply just be a pawn of, I guess you could say, the Infinity Stones. And the snap would definitely be the type of thing that the Soul Stone would want, considering part of what the Soul Stone wants in the comics is to gather more souls. And your reasoning for why he didn't, I guess, destroy all of life in the universe, well, a good reason would be because if you have half of the souls and they repopulate, you just have more souls. So eventually when Thanos does another snap, it can just be a very vicious cycle that feeds the Soul Stone more souls at the end of the day. Now, this would be a really cool twist, like I said before, because it would also explain from kind of Thanos' actions how there's a greater threat while not needing to introduce a character such as a nihilist, which may just be too much for this movie at this point when you really think about the fact that it has to not only wrap up Thanos' storyline, but also the Avengers storyline, and that's a lot of characters, of course, especially if certain characters are dying or may just finish their contracts and not appear afterwards. And according to the Russo brothers, the Soul Stone actually has the ability to manipulate your soul and your essence of who you are. So that's kind of interesting, and in the sense, seeing as Wong actually said in the Prelude comic for Infinity War that Ultron was used by the Mind Stone to make itself a new host body. That's actually a literal quote from the Prelude comic. It's very possible Thanos' essence will be changed by the Mind Stone or another Infinity Stone, or maybe all of them together, to be that new host. And I think what that new host may be is a vessel for death, that entity from the cosmic realm and basically the universe that is closely related to Thanos in a lot of comics. And I think Lady Death, or the entity of death, being in the Soul Stone actually would make a lot of sense when you really consider a lot of things, especially Lady Death, obviously souls, things like that. It all kind of fits into one, and it would fit with what Jim Starlin said, considering that is a creation of Starlin's. So definitely comment below your guys' thoughts down below. Would you like that if that was kind of a twist where technically the Soul Stone, which was really death inside of it, was manipulating Thanos the whole time and basically using Thanos' initial plan and kind of just manipulating him to actually carry it out? So one, death gets more stones, but also in a weird kind of twist, Thanos would be still doing what he's doing for death, just like he did in the comics. But comment below your guys' thoughts. This is an interesting theory I thought I'd throw to you guys, and I'll see you guys later.